Hi everyone, welcome back to another Phantasy Star Online video. What I want to talk about today is how the game tried to achieve the goal of bringing the world together online. So with PSO being the first online multiplayer console RPG, SEGA wanted the game to be groundbreaking and one that would encourage players from all over the world to play together. So Dreamcast players from the time probably remember the infamous PSO commercial that claimed that you could play with the entire population of the world, 6 billion players. As farcical as that number was, it did show that SEGA was serious on pushing the benefits of online console RPGs. Now, one thing I've realised while doing this channel is that there's actually a lot of people who've maybe never played PSO online. Now, whether that's down to not having the ability to play online, as decent internet access was still quite patchy in the year 2000, or simply not being old enough to remember PSO, a fact that still makes me feel incredibly ancient. So for those of you who have never actually experienced PSO Online, how exactly did SEGA achieve their goal of bringing the entire world together? The short answer, of course, is that they didn't. The 6 billion players thing was obviously just marketing spin just to build excitement. However, SEGA did do some things in PSO to make that reality a little bit closer. The first one was worldwide servers on some versions of PSO at least. I personally started with the GameCube version of PSO in around 2003. And I distinctly remember there being online ships for different regions, specifically the US, EU and Japan. However, you could freely travel between these ships if you wanted to. Later games like Blueburst started to separate the servers completely, and if we jump forward to PSO 2 you can't switch ships on the fly. Now yes, in that game you can pay to transfer to another ship, but that only happens each maintenance, so if you've got friends on multiple ships you're kind of out of luck. Now, having the ability in some versions of PSO to freely travel between the different regional ships meant that it was extremely easy to expose yourself to people from other cultures. I remember that I would often play on the Japanese ships, mainly because if you played PSO GameCube you know that the US ships tended to have some, let's say, unscrupulous players who like to freeze your game and make you lose everything. But the other reason was to try and talk to some of the Japanese players. Now, bearing in mind I was a teenager at the time who knew no Japanese, and that because of this there was an obvious language barrier, so how could I speak to them? Well, fear not, because PSO had you covered. PSO introduced a system known as word select. Now this is essentially a built-in auto-translation tool. The way that it worked was that it contained lots of different phrases for specific situations. So for example, you could enter a lobby, open word select, and there'd be a greetings tab. Opening that greetings tab would give you options like hello, goodbye, nice playing with you, good to see you, and so on. You could then target the phrase at a specific player or at everyone. What word select would then do is it would automatically translate that phrase into the recipient's native language, providing their language was supported by PSO. So for example, if you entered the Japanese player's game and said hello using word select, this would appear for the Japanese player as konnichiwa. Saying thank you would appear as arigato, and so on. There were even options to create custom conversations, such as talking about an enemy, for example, Dark Falls is hiding, or talking about a hobby such as I have expertise in bonsai trees, which yes, that was a real option in word select. Word select was a very inventive way of ensuring that people from different countries were able to communicate in some capacity, even if it was quite limited. PSO also featured symbol art, which were primitive artworks. Symbol art is still used in the later games, but PSO was pretty much the first time it happened. I guess the idea of symbol art is that they're kind of visual prompts that are sometimes easier to understand than written text. If someone sees a picture of a sad face, the word off, and a picture of a cable being cut, it's kind of easy to work out that that means that the player's leaving or disconnecting. You know, a picture is worth 1,000 words and all that. Now you can still experience word select on the PSO private servers, and while it's a bit of an amusement nowadays, back in the early days of PSO it did genuinely help to communicate. To be honest, I actually still use it now when I'm arranging trades with Japanese players. In modern times, a lot of games have auto chat that translates automatically, but I think PSO must be one of the first, if not the first, to experiment with something like this, particularly for console. SEGA really wanted to bring players around the world together through online gaming, and for that I think they should be applauded. It's just unfortunate that this hasn't really lasted, at least in Phantasy Star, and we're now on separate servers. Sure, something like a word select would still help to communicate, as we are still talking about a vast array of languages across the US and EU, but I can't help think that we're taking a step back in going back to separated servers from the Japanese side. It just feels like regression rather than progress. So with that very quick video, I just wanted to cover this for people who might not be aware that this was a thing in PSO. So with that, I will end the video there. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, subscribing, or joining as a member on YouTube. You can also follow or sub over on Twitch, which is SectionSkyly. I have a X and a Bluesky, which are both SectionSkyly, and I also have a Discord channel that you can join, which I'll leave a link to in the description as well. So yeah, with that, I will end that one there. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Goodbye, everybody.